Welcome back to another episode of A Mental Health Break. I'm your host and author of the book, Mr. Lancey Talks Mental Health, Vincent A. Lancey. Yvette has published a book that can help better your mental health, just like my book. When I found out about this book, I had to bring her back on the show for the bonus series, How Writing Helps, for this season. Each week on this podcast, I interview a different mental health professional or advocate from across the country and around the world to share their story relating to mental health. I created this platform when I came to a turning point in my life. When I was 21 years old, I was the victim of a hit-and-run accident while on foot. After coming out of a coma and suffering from a traumatic brain injury, or you may know of as a TBI, I soon realized it was time to better my mental health, and that led me to create this series. I am thrilled to launch this bonus episode of How Writing Helps because writing is one of my favorite ways to manage my stress and take care of my mental health. There's no cost to do it, and there are many forms of writing that we can engage in. And before I introduce this week's guest, I have some exciting news to share with you all. This summer's episodes will be brought to you by Tampa Counseling and Wellness, dedicated to helping individuals looking to positively transform their lives through compassionate counseling and wellness coaching. If you struggle with depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues, call today for a free consultation. Tampa Counseling and Wellness, therapy that inspires change, and you can find their info in today's episode description, whether you want in-person visits or virtual assistance. This week, we're bringing on a guest that published a 5 Steps to Self-Love, a guide to creating a foundation that will empower you to be your most authentic self book. And this guide has a workbook that empowers you to become more aware and in control of your personal needs and goals. It has journal prompts, affirmations, and powerful advice from Yvette's personal journey that she will reshare again today. We're going to learn about this and so much more. So allow me to now bring back Yvette Justina to the show. Yvette, thank you so much for joining again.
Thank you for having me, Vincent. I'm glad to be back.
Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners who missed your first episode? And also, please do touch on your role relating to mental health.
My name is Yvette Justina. I am a certified personal trainer and wellness coach. And I teach people how to create a foundation for their health of well-being and social well-being, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I suffered from depression, self-harm, and drug addiction for the majority of my adolescence, pretty much.
Well, thank you for coming back, and thank you for your courage to reshare your story. I'm thrilled to now get into why we brought you on this show. You mentioned you had some depression in your history. Can you please describe that a little more, and then the transition you made to now? Because I'm looking at you, you're thriving. Let's date back a little bit and talk about that to relate with our listeners.
I suffered from depression at a really young age. I really kept it to myself a lot, held back from family and friends, started self-harming, cutting myself at a young age. That led me to turn to drugs to kind of numb pain. And from there, I got into an abusive marriage, pushed all my friends away. And through all of that, there was a time where it was life or death. It was really bad. Again, I was married in an abusive relationship, someone emotionally, physically harming me. I was physically harming myself. And through those depths, I decided I really needed to take control of my life. Something within me just kind of sparked, and it was a life or death situation. And where I started there was taking control of my mental well-being.
And something that can help everybody listening on is by taking care of their mental well-being is Yvette's book. Now let's talk about this book you created.
So my ebook, 5 Steps to Self-Love, is really a workbook, a guide to help people who just don't know where to start.
Amazing.
I unfortunately was just grasping onto anyone that could help me. And through it all, when I sat back and looked, I realized although everyone's path, everyone's journey is unique, it all started with kind of a few non-negotiables that I had to work within myself. So this again is just a roadmap, a starting point, so someone can sit down and say, okay, where do I start? How do I start this journey of self-love and being mindful with my mind and my body and my health? And this is really just helping people to create that foundation.
It's a great book. Everybody be sure to stick around to the end of the episode. We'll tell you exactly how to get it. Yvette, now I'm going to ask you a writing question as we just spoke about your mental health and the book. I find writing to be a great way to really express myself, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. What is your favorite form of writing?
My favorite form of writing would have to be just journaling. A lot comes from it. Journaling is really a great way to connect with my true emotions, my true feelings, and there's really no way to do it wrong. And sometimes out of that, writing comes for things that I'm meant to share, and some of it is just for myself. But just making that connection of the free form of putting just words onto paper really allows me to practice emotional intelligence, to practice mindfulness, and to be able to manage my emotions and thoughts properly.
Very well said. Journaling can do a lot of good for you. And remember, everyone, it is a free exercise. This is not something you need to buy. Pick up a pencil, set a 2-minute timer if you want. You don't have to journal for hours. Build up your tolerance to journaling. It will help you a long way. But other than writing, what are 2 things you do for your mental health on a short-term or daily basis that make you feel more mentally healthy?
Definitely putting nutritious food in my body. I am a true believer that the mind and body connection, and trying to eat the least processed, more fruits, more veggies, because I believe junk food creates kind of junk cells and junk racy thoughts and things like that. So the more grounded I am in my diet, that really does help my mental health and manage stress and anxiety. Another thing that I am very consistent about is self check-ins of how I feel, and not just that, but honoring them. So if I'm having a bad day, or if it's, I'm not going to push myself out of not honoring my feelings and my emotions. So the check-in of, what do I really need today? What do I really need to be grounded to myself, to be true to myself, so that I can honor my mental health?
Keep things simple. Everyone listening on, you're hearing her explain this very out for you. What do you really need? Let's not worry about all the excess things, the things that can increase our anxiety, give us stress. What do we really need? Let's hone in. Let's focus on that. Always good to have mental health goals to focus on. What are you working on for 2021, Yvette, as far as your mental health goals?
My mental health goals for 2021 is gonna be it's going to be grace. Through my journey, I personally am ever evolving, and I've gone through a spectrum of mental health. And sometimes I find myself in my new state, not kind of looking over and thinking that, oh, I'm good because my bad days don't look like they used to be. Because I'm not dark depressed and I'm not cutting myself and I don't have the deep depression that I used to, it doesn't mean that I'm not sad today. I have to honor what my sadness, my stress, and my anxiety looks like in my new level of me. And sometimes, because I'm so different, now I tend to overlook that because it doesn't feel or look like it used to. But there's no way that has to look for anybody. So evaluating and honoring how I feel in my sadness and my stress, and not overlooking it because it has changed so far. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Make sure you take this advice. It's great advice. It's tangible tips that have worked for Yvette. They're in her book as well. Is there any more writing on the cusp? Are you working on anything else? Are we focusing on this project right now?
So yes, I am working on something now. It is going to be another kind of workbook roadmap situation.
Nice.
And it's going to be focused more on health, diet, physical well-being, and spiritual well-being.
Be sure to be on the lookout for that. Stay tuned. In just a few minutes after her last words, she'll tell you how to follow her, how to stay up to date with her book. And Yvette, I got to thank you so much for joining me on yet another episode. So much value all the way throughout. And especially, I have to emphasize the essential guide and workbook she had provided to you. It empowers you to become more aware, in control of your personal needs. After this COVID virus, we need to be more focused on our goals and tangible ways to get there. She can help you do just that. And Yvette, what are you leaving us off with for your last word?
I'm going to keep it short and simple. You get to choose you again and again.
That's right. Make sure you do something you're passionate about. It will define you. Just like she says. Now, social media, website, how can we find this book?
I'm on Instagram at Yvette Justina, and you can find the book in the link in my bio. It's YvetteJustina, and you can also find it on my website, YvetteJustina.com.
Be sure to head right there after this episode ends. Check out her book. Check out what she has to offer. And we're also on social media too. We're at A Mental Health Break on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And on Twitter, we're at Podcast by Lancey, so you get updates from both of my shows. My handles are at Vincent A. Lancey for all social media and YouTube. And my website is vincentalancy.com. If you would like a signed copy of any of my books instead of Amazon, DM me. I would love to connect. Of course, my most recent book is Mr. Lancey Talks Mental Health. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week on A Mental Health Break.